TAF Academy, a 6th through 12th grade public school, is using the design thinking process to create an all-new student lab. Follow us on this iterative and interdisciplinary journey as we create our new hackspace.
We'll start from the entryway, and we'll march around the room with different modules. Okay? And then right here is a common space. A common space can be used for anything that you want to do, but imagine going into the first module, which is empathize, and then define, and then ideate, and you say, okay, I need some time to think about this. So you pop out of the module to the common space, leave room for somebody else to go in, and you do your thinking and your processing along with all the information that came from these first modules in your laptop or your tablet, what have you, as you do your thing in the common space, and other people, as they march through their modules from the beginning of the thought to the end of the thought. Okay? And one of the key ways that we thought about looking at this is as a digestion tract, which came from here. Guys,
since how we envisioned it is that this is the area where if students, it's all about work. Like you want to come in here, you want to be able to work, you don't want to be distracted by anything else. You want to make sure that you come in here and you feel confident and comfortable and able to actually get your work done rather than distracted by anything. Which is why we decided to separate the two, whether it be an individual wants to come in and they want to work, or whether it be a teacher wants to bring in their student into this space and they want their students to be working more hands-on and getting their projects done. Which is why we decided to divide the two areas. This area is more like on this side, on the other side of the wall where like the modules are. We decided that's where more personalized projects and more individual projects and students can be able to come in and where they can be able to work and finish their projects. Because while we were looking at the design, we realized that if, let's say, an individual wanted to come in through, we didn't want them to interfere with the classroom, which is why we don't want the area more right in this area, because that would be interfering with the classrooms. We want the teacher to be able to come in and get started, and we also want the students to be able to come in and also get started, which was why we decided to have them separate where the students can come in. And in terms of storage, we decided to but use the cabinets that are in there in order to put it more storage. And then this beautiful cabinet type is in case a student is in too much of a hurry and they don't want to necessarily sit down in order to finish their projects. We're going to have standing project sections where students can be able to stand and work on the actual storage space, where if they're working on something, once they're done, they can take their projects, because let's be real, if I'm working, I don't want to be thinking about, okay, I have to clean up all this mess. I want to be able to take exactly everything that I have because I might need it in the future. Which is why we want them to be able to take their projects and we want them to be able to put it inside the storage space, and that way it's exactly how they left it, which is good.
We were thinking that, number one, the electricity would be run through the ceiling, so to bring pull-downs to each individual table, depending on the arrangement of the table. So you don't have to hunt outlets on the walls or fight for the table that's next to the wall. With that in mind, we're showing the circulation in red that is maintained, which is along the wall over there, entrance and into the back. Number two, the area that the teacher has been identified as being this wall only. So that becomes peripheral for activities on that wall. And the rest is just literally arrangement of all the tables in such a way that they can be used on both sides, allowing for circulation on either side. Secondly, the area that I call lab and tools, they don't use that as a kitchen. So therefore, it has plumbing, existing plumbing. There's no real reason why that could not be changed into a wet lab condition. Easy. So with that in mind, again, the flexibility of additional tables around that area makes it useful. I mean, you're going across 5 feet at the most to get to a counter that has sink, you know. Option number 2, maintaining the same circulation. Actually, not the same circulation. The main circulation divides the space in 2. Both walls remain teachers' domain. And basically, I'm not sure if this will work the best in terms of dividing the main circulation between 2 groupings of student tables. Again, the same condition on the lab, wet labs being next to the class.
We started by identifying kind of like the needs that we saw as teachers and students for the multi types of usages for this area, and we took into account actually the kitchen being used, because sometimes classes will come in here and they'll do an activity in the kitchen, and the way that it's designed right now, it's really limiting for that to happen because it's kind of like an alley or a galley kitchen, and it doesn't really lend itself to that. And so, and taking into account also what David had mentioned about having maybe like a lounge area or making a place comfortable, we came up with a way to divide the kitchen area using divisions or walls that would have shelving for storage of either tools or projects for both sides, but that it would also provide a partition between the kitchen area and the lab, the design lab space. The walls wouldn't go all the way to the top because we need circulation for the kitchen. When the stove is used, a lot of times smoke is an issue. So that would allow the air to still flow out. And then it's not one seamless partition, because then we would divide this into like a little lounge area right over here that could be accessible from the design lab or from the kitchen area. And the kitchen could be accessed from that door over here or from the design area as well. The server room right now, we envision that to be kind of like a material storage space, where we could have, wood or plastic or I don't know, whatever else we're going to have available for the kids to use. So ideally, we would line the entire room, except for where the server is, with cabinets in order for them to be stored there. And then below the cabinets, having movable tables that could either be used there for storage, or they could be wheeled in here if you need more table space, or they could be used in conjunction with the garden club. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we had originally envisioned workspace and work tables in the garden area, and that's still sort of a thinking process. So we were thinking that if we had, if you have up to 40 kids in here or something, and it's nice outside, then we can extend our workspace outside into this area, or even potentially into the garden, but we could make the garden semi-permanent storage for some tables to relieve the amount of furniture in here. We're also thinking that these roller tables would have storage area underneath them, and then could potentially be rolled out into storage area here.
On the outside along this back wall.
Yeah. So if you had a project or an experiment that couldn't be tampered with too much, or you didn't want to take off of the table, you could just roll it out into a storage space until next class.
And we also envisioned the smart board moving from this area to that wall, because that again would facilitate the separation of, if there were 2 classes in here, one's using the kitchen area and one's, if it's a more structured class using the design lab, that allows them to be the furthest apart. And then this wall over here being used for like 3D printer, laser cutter, we're gonna have one, or computers for the 3D printer.
What takes you from like starting a project when you come in as a student to where do you go first? So if you come in, you're like ready to like work on your project, the first thing you want to do is like go to supplies to get what you need. to start your project for that day. Then from supplies, you move over to these tables, these retractable tables, which I'll let you describe it.
The retractable tables have a little desk space underneath if you need to store anything above here, underneath, like a desk. But these also retract down like when you pull a cereal box so that it saves space if you need to use extra space, like if there's a lot of people in the room.
Exactly, so that's why this became our multi-purpose area, which had the retractable tables that act as workstations for like 2 to 3 people, or if there's like a large group, like 20, 50, we can like pull out more tables and have this be the whole place that, yeah, just kind of like keeps changing. And then on this back wall, we'll continue going from like this being the workspace to like, let's say you need to work on your project and this would be the cutting area. Then it goes to like, let's say back to your computer, then let's say you come back and like, oh, I need to 3D print something. So this is also like the 3D printing area that has the CAD computers attached to each one. And this one in the middle is attached to a little laser cutter. So like again, it's like you kind of keep going back and forth between like your workstation and the tools. And then when you leave, you take everything away and then you put your supplies back and then you're out of here. And so we didn't do too much changing over here. When we thought about the woodworking area, we thought it would be too loud to have it in this space, so we were just like, you know, we're just gonna use the majority of the $5,000 budget to make a small shed outside so that the wood stuff is like more outside and we're not even dealing with the ventilation, the noise, or any of the dust kind of coming up in these spaces where you want to like work on nice robotic projects. But I thought this desk that she kind of designed was pretty key in like making this whole space like usable for a lot of people or just a small group.